In a world of Johnnies, Timmies, and Spikes, we must all arrive at the win condition.
God, if Jace shows up in Unstable, I am going to do all kinds of nasty, horrible things.
What are we going to do tonight, Pinky? Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world. Man, Sultai has never seemed so good.
Nicopolis is actually a part of the League of Dastardly Doom. Hello again, and welcome back to the Win Condition podcast, where we talk all things Magic the Gathering. My name is Sean. I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Doing good this morning.
Good. Well, that's better than most of the Magic community on social media has been doing this week, but we'll talk about that later. How has your week been, Greg?
I've been busy, working in retail for the holidays keeps me on my toes.
I bet it does.
Mm-hmm. But, it's okay. Haven't played a lot of Magic, sadly. I've been busy with my girlfriend.
Well, that's good. That's good to spend some time with a significant other, and Thanksgiving was a week ago, and we had Black Friday, all kinds of fun stuff.
Promo cards.
Always hard to come back to work after a holiday, but, gotta do what we gotta do. So, anywho, we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. It's an exciting weekend ahead of us. It is Friday, December 1st, and we wanted to not go too much further before we remind everybody that this show is brought to you by Flipside Gaming at flipsidegaming.com, where you can go and order your Magic singles, your Magic sealed product, most any gaming product you can think of. You can find it at Flipside Gaming. And if you have an order over $10 and you use that promo code WINCONDITION in all caps, you will save 10% off of your purchase. Orders over $100, you get free shipping. How about that? So head on over to Flipside Gaming, flipsidegaming.com, and make your order today. And all proceeds will help fund our future show giveaways.
Yay.
So, Greg, we love lore, right?
No, I hate lore.
I love lore so much that, diving deep into the older stories of Magic just really tickles my fancy. But we have something very interesting with a special guest writer on hand here. What do we have for our newest set here, Greg?
So with Unstable releasing next week, Wizards made us a story, and it's unique because it's written by none other than the creator himself, Mark Rosewater.
I thought he was in research and development, not story writing.
I mean, he started his career as a screenwriter.
True. He was a screenwriter on Roseanne.
And some other shows. He talks about some.
Yeah, but he has a very unique take on the Magic story here. So
yeah, he does.
What we wanted to do was take you through the Unstable story. And he actually starts out on a very interesting premise. So we begin the Unstable story.
Wait, one more. So was alluding to this in the spoiler with the Planeswalker. Did you get that?
Oh, you're absolutely correct.
Because he is the headmaster.
Yes, Urza headmaster. Okay, all right, it makes so much more sense now. Imagine that, Wizards putting out little clues to what's going to be coming out in the future.
Wait, Emrakul isn't here, is she?
No, Emrakul is not here, and neither is Jace. God, if Jace shows up in Unstable, I am going to do all kinds of nasty, horrible things. But anyway. So we begin our story in a classroom, and people are giving oral presentations.
Mm-hmm.
So the teacher begins calling up students, and I don't know, Greg, why don't you start us off on this?
So what they essentially do is they're giving written reports on the government of the plane of Bablovia. So Unstable is set on the plane of Bablovia, which probably has some reference to Bob, because name things Bob is cool. And they're talking about how in this world, there's something called the Carta Scientia,
Yep.
which is the science charter. Essentially, what it means is any science can form their own government. So each of these people are talking about different sciences becoming different governments and how they all started or what they do. It's kind of an interesting idea, but it does cause a lot of mad science.
To quote the story here, one of the first students says, "So now we have five bonzo governments, each one crazier than the last, all embracing mad science as if it were a virtue."
Mm-hmm.
So, they're not necessarily fighting each other. They're merely coexisting with their own specific
Rule set.
interests.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of
so
interesting.
it is. It is, yeah. So we go on, and each of the students has an opportunity to give their oral presentation on each of the five sections of scientific government.
And what
And so the
type of
first,
thing they are.
yes, right, right. So the first student, I believe her name is Annabelle.
Well, that talks
Um,
about the different ones. Martina was the first one to talk about how the world started with science and everything, and how she hates the fact that science rules everything, and she gives the teacher a lot of flack about it.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. So Annabelle here is giving a summary of each of the branches here. You've got the Order of the Widget, you've got the Agents of Sneak, you've got the League of Dastardly Doom, the Goblin Explosioneers, and the Crossbreed Labs.
Yep.
Um, so they give kind of or she gives kind of a summary of what each of them is all about. And then they go into greater detail where individual students will come up and talk about their findings of each of these orders or groups, if you will. So I guess we can kind of summarize what each of these are without going into too great of a detail. But basically, the Order of the Widget was founded by a
Guy who wanted it was a guy that was on vacation and he loved toast.
his name is Calvin. That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
And Calvin
Calvin
Granderson.
Granderson. Yes.
And what he wanted is he went on a vacation. He's like, why is there no toaster? Well, next time I'll bring my toaster. So he brings his toaster, and then he's like, well, I'm going to go do something else. And he didn't think about bringing his toaster, and then he got to the place and was bored. He's like, now I want toast. So when he got back home, he decided, I don't need my left hand. I'm going to make it a toaster. So he made his left hand a toaster. And then he's like, well, I have toast, but what about butter? So in his leg, he put a refrigeration unit that kept butter. So eventually he started improving himself. And as he started doing this, other people thought this was an amazing idea. I'm going to follow suit. And as their needs grew and changed, Calvin also grew and changed. And over years and years of enhancing his body, about the time he hit 90% conversion, he changed his name to the Grand Calcutron, because that is what they needed. Now, of course, I'm getting ahead of myself a little in the story here, but what it comes down to is anybody is better than the Grand Calcutron, they become the new leader. Now, that hasn't happened in a long time.
Right.
You want to tell us a little about Agents of Sneak?
Yeah, absolutely. So Juanita comes up and decides to talk about the Agents of Sneak, who is a secret spy organization dedicated to, well, it's not really quite sure. Um, Originally, what had happened was it, it was actually sort of a message board or an odd jobs board, with people having some pretty crazy requests, odd jobs. So people would come and take these crazy odd jobs, and then they would develop these gadgets to help themselves complete these jobs, better and better. And so all of a sudden it became more about what kind of gadgets you were using and who had the better gadgets. Then it became and actually this job board with so many odd and oftentimes illegal jobs, it actually kind of became like a police blog where you could just come and see what kind of mischief people were looking to get into. And then it got so deep with the whole spying on other people that they started putting up, requests to spy on other agents of Sneak. So it kind of turned into this whole convoluted spy network where they weren't really getting anything done. They were just trying to get more and more advanced with more and more information on everybody. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, it's kind of cool if you ask me. I like it.
All right, so that was Agents of Sneak. Do you want to take us into the League of Dastardly Doom?
I sure will. So Harold steps up to the plate and he talks about the League of Dastardly Doom. And unlike the Agents of Sneak, they have a very clear and concise goal. They want to take over the world. What are we going to do tonight, Pinky? Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
Thanks, Brain.
Anyhow, the largest topic of debate in the league is how the heck they're going to do it. Are they going to kill everybody? Are they going to enslave everybody? Are they going to torture them and make them be controlled by some new technology? I mean, it's hard to say. So they want to know how the league formed. It started out as a supervillain support group for their failures. And as more and more people started hanging out and talking about their failures, they started joining together. And then it became a group. They started having roles, and they founded their government based on the science of technology of destroying the world or controlling it.
Sounds easy enough.
Right? The funny thing is that they may mostly take care of supervillains, training them, helping them get to where they want to be, and running horrible things. So the current one that is run is known as the Legion of Evil, is Baron von Count, the Big Idea, Griselda, and Mario Kill. Of course, they've had some significant roster changes as the ruling cabal itself has changed numerous times. It started as the Legion of Evil, then the Society of Vile, then the Clan of Cruelty, and then the Men of Malice, and now the Legion of Evil. It's kind of a fun group of horribly insignificant supervillains that can never get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about the Goblin Explosioneers?
Boy, do I. So then Ming Na gets called up to talk about the Goblin Explosioneers. So what happened was there's a company called Steam Flogger Industries. And then, it was just a steam mill. And they were just doing, normal steam mill stuff. But then in order to become more competitive, they started cutting quite a bit of their safety measures, which kind of made some people a little weary. So the head of Steam Flogger Industries was a woman named Thorna Grabler. And so she got this crazy idea to go and hire goblins to start working at Steam Flogger Industries. Well, this went over pretty well. They came down, they started working, and they were introduced to this little piece of technology called a hammer. And goblins had never seen a hammer before, and they were excited. They were just, all about this hammer. So they started working with this hammer and making, pretty crazy things. I mean, originally it was just a steel mill. Well, these goblins started using these hammers and making these ridiculously weird and intricate contraptions. And so this started to become the focal point of Steam Flogger Industries production. And one by one, slowly but surely, the non-goblin staff started to quit. They're like, we've had it. We're done. This is too crazy. We're out of here. Well, the goblins, on the other hand, took to it and continued just pursuing their dreams of crazy inventions and contraptions, making bigger hammers, just general frivolity all around.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, once management started to quit and goblins became, they filled those roles. Thorna herself decided it was time to leave. So with no leader and there's no order whatsoever, this organization of production just continued on until randomly at one point a single steam flogger boss somehow showed up in town and quote, crazy rambling led to all sorts of speculation. I wonder where we've seen this mirrored in the actual MTG multiverse.
Oh no, never happened. Nope, no
Never,
mirroring.
never, never. So anyway, these goblin explosioneers, a lot of them died in the process of making all these crazy things. But hey, there's plenty of goblins to go around, so why not? So
Yeah.
just a pretty crazy, insane organization with a steam flogger boss. So, all right, well, you can round us out, Greg, with Crossbreed Labs.
I can round us out. I think there's one other thing after Crossbreed Labs. Um,
Am I missing one?
so, so Nadima steps up and starts talking about Crossbreed Labs and how it started 28 years ago as a university lab. There were these three doctors, Julius Jameson, Luisa Rodriguez, and Dr. Hana Tanaka. Why do I have a feeling that that has something to do with rock, paper, scissors? I don't know. So they had met at the university and were considered the top minds of their field, and they started working on how to cure cancer. So they thought, oh, how about we infuse lizard genes into the person? And I was like, that's a great idea. Well, the subject grew a tail. Nothing to say about the cancer, but they had a tail. It's kind of cool, right? I mean, do you want a tail? So what ended up happening is Dr. Jameson figured he had something profound on his hand, whereas Rodriguez and Tanaka were like, I don't think so. This doesn't work. So they felt defeated. So Dr. Jameson is like, I'm going to start experimenting. So he undertook the procedure to get a pair of wings because he wanted to fly. And adding wings, he was able to. So he started welcoming people to the procedure to do it for free. If you felt part Turgle, part Jaguar, well, sure, you could become that. Kind of cool, right? I mean,
I want to become what I want to become.
yeah. So the university became a new center for this, and people could alter themselves. Creatures could alter themselves. Dr. Jameson underwent numerous procedures himself, adding animal after animal, until he mixed dinosaur DNA. Once he did that, he decided to change his name to Dr. Julius Jumblemorph. So essentially, what they do is they provide a society so people can be who they want to be. If you want to be a demon cat, you could be. Kind of cool, right? So that's kind of how they formed their own government because it was getting to a point where they were going to label it as illegal. But not true anymore. Newer government for sure.
Yep.
And then the one you forgot
Oh
was.
no, I remembered here now.
Do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
Okay.
So here we have another student who pipes up, "What about me?" And teacher goes, "Stuart, I'm sorry. I accidentally had you down for next week. Come on up." So Stuart comes up and starts talking about squirrels. Well, that wasn't the topic assigned to him, but he wants to talk about squirrels and how he feels each of these five branches of government is actually all a product of squirrels, and they're running the whole show. Well, here's how he tries to substantiate his theory on squirrel domination. Well, Crossbreed Labs, as we just heard about, has been doing experiments on creatures for a very, very long time. And the easiest creature to do experiments on is the white mouse. And the prevalence of white mice, basically, was okay. There was plenty of them for all the experiments they needed, no problem. Well, Crossbreed Labs began to get way too big, so they started using way too many mice, and the population of mice was facing extinction, which was a huge problem. I mean, they wouldn't have any animals to do any research on. Well, once the white mouse became extinct, the animal that most closely resembled the white mouse for crossbreed to do their experiments on was the squirrel. So they started doing experimentations on squirrels. Well, after certain augmenting and I guess you could say I don't know if it's hyper fertilization or something, so that they wouldn't run out of any population of squirrels anytime soon. Um, all these experiments have produced what could possibly be considered sentient squirrel beings, and the exponential rate at which these squirrels are reproducing and advancing would lead one to believe Actually, it's more of a conjecture, to quote Stewart. But yeah, the he believes all five factions are secretly being run by the squirrels,
Yep.
and yeah, the teacher just kind of stops him right there and says, "Okay, all right, well, we've kind of heard enough of this. Everybody, thank you. Class dismissed."
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Um, I'm very happy with all these different kind of ideas of how the government is. I am kind of sad that we aren't getting the classic unsets of magic. You're so stupid. But you know what? Whatever. It seems like fun.
Right? I mean, these unsets only come around once every.
Well, the last one was 10 years ago, and then the one before that was like 5. So they don't come around too often, and let's hope that they continue to keep that up.
And it's fun to get a break from the normal monotony of standard set after standard set after standard set. It kind of lets us take a step back and laugh and grab some extra cards for our cubes. Uh, Maybe commander decks, which we'll talk about later.
What?
But
What?
yeah, the
Later?
introduction of a silver bordered set every so often just kind of shakes things up and keeps all audiences interested.
True. Very true.
Yep. All right. So moving on from unstable, we have a big weekend ahead of us in the competitive Magic scene. So, Greg, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to take you into the spike pit.
Ow, don't do that to me. It always hurts when we go into the spike pit.
One of these days, I'm gonna splice a Mortal Kombat sound in there just to get some authenticity.
Possibly go with the whole brutality
You could do brutality, absolutely,
or
animality, babality. No,
I don't know.
Anyway,
Babyality's
so
a bit too far.
back to Magic. Yeah, this weekend we go to the Magic World Cup,
Yes.
which takes on a couple forms. Currently, Friday morning, they're doing team sealed. It's a team sealed event to start. Moving on later on in the day, they will have team unified standard, which we'll go into in a minute. But Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about team sealed and how that works?
So essentially, what's going to end up happening is among the 3 players of the team, they're going to get. It's not 18 packs. It's like 12 or
It's
16.
a hefty amount. I mean, each person gets 6
Is it
usually.
6
Yeah, I
each?
think it would be about 18.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
18
100% sure.
packs between all 3 of them, and then they have to build decks individually for each of them. So the group gets together to build decks, and there's a whole dynamic of how it plays. I've played in a couple team events. I did a team sealed event in GP San Jose, like RTR block, and I remember we kind of designed the decks so that we had our best player playing the worst deck, our worst player playing the best deck, and because I was the mid-level, I played the mid-level deck.
Seems fair.
So ultimately, you try to make it so that you pull the weight of each of your players and make it competitive. We did really well until we hit about round 5 when we faced some French pro players. And out of that match, it was really fun because I won my match, but my team players didn't. But it was really fun.
No.
It was really
Wah,
good.
wah.
But it does lead to a lot of interesting interactivity because each deck has their own sideboard. You can't have a pool sideboard. So everybody builds, you get your deck, and then you get your sideboard, and it gets registered. You can't just pull from anything. So usually what you do is you put, whoever has the worst deck gets the everything, and the other 2 decks get to build more appropriately. So
Right.
from your 18 packs, you're just hoping you get enough cards to build 3 decks that work. I mean, you get enough, but getting the cards you need is more of a challenge.
Yeah, and oftentimes after building decks for everybody, on second glance, a team might look and say, you know what, I think we can do better than this. Completely disassemble all the decks, try different color combinations until they come up with one that they see as most efficient for their team.
I thought at pro players, they were unable to change their decks around after round 1.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about after round 1. I'm saying when they build their decks,
yes,
like the
definitely.
process of deck building. Like let's say, Greg, if you were on my team and you started building a blue-white deck and I started building a red-green deck, then all of a sudden we're like, hey, you know what? Blue and red would pair a whole lot better and white and green would pair a whole lot better. Why don't we mix these and match? And then all of a sudden, boom, you got a better deck. All I'm saying is, at first glance, the decks you build might not always be the best, so just use your teammates' knowledge and
Work
you
with them.
can try multiple things and always come up with the best decks.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun doing team events. If you haven't played Team Sealed, go out and do it. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
And it's a 3-on-3 format
Hmm.
where all three players from one team play 1-on-1 with a respective member of the opposing team, and each match of those three or total of six players, each match is a 2 out of 3 game, and if two matches end with the same team winning, then the match is over.
Yep.
The third match wouldn't
Does not have
necessarily
to
need to be
finish. Yep.
completed. But one team will win when two of their members win first. Oftentimes it can go to all three of the matches will end and it hinges on the last one. But there are definitely plenty of times also where two players will win and the third team or the third match might even be on their first game still, but they have
Yeah.
to stop because the match has already been decided.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting way of playing. I know there's a couple times that we had such aggressive decks in that event. We would win the first 20 minutes, and the third player didn't ever have to finish.
Right.
Yeah.
You got like your aggro deck, and then a control deck. And so those aggro decks finish up real quick, and the control deck is sitting there like, are we going to go to turns?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's how Team Sealed works. So the second half of the day today, which I am extremely excited about, is Team Unified Standard. Greg, what is Team Unified Standard?
So, essentially, you work in a team of 3 players, and it works the same way as Team Limited, but your unified standard constructed decks can only have a playset of any one card. So that means if I'm playing a Teamer deck and Sean is playing a Ramanov Red, we both cannot run a playset of a Braid.
Correct.
Now, Sean can run 2 and I can run 2, and then between us there's a playset, but we can't run 4 each because that breaks the rule. It is only allowed
Right.
a playset of the card among the entire team. So
Exactly.
if you ever played Team Commander, only one player gets to play with a Soul Ring.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a way to play that too, and it's kind of an interesting way to play.
Yeah. Well, I am honestly extremely excited about this because what this forces teams to do is find decks that will accommodate the best cards that they can that they have space for, basically.
Yes.
So what I personally have heard from listening to a couple other podcasts and reading some sources is that a very popular build for this weekend takes some of the strongest decks in the format and actually is able to fuse them all together. The loadout is such that one player will play Sultai Energy, so blue, green, black. One player will play blue, white, God Pharaoh's Gift, and a third player will play Ramanap Red, obviously a red deck. And the distribution of cards necessary for these decks is such that you can almost take each of these 3 decks at 100% strength, which are pretty much the top 3 decks of the format. We saw in the World Championships recently Seth Manfield piloting Sultai Energy, Pascal Maynard playing the Blue-White God Pharaoh's Gift, and then we had Eilenfeld playing his red deck. Or no, he was playing vehicles. I'm sorry. But yeah, there was definitely Ramanop Red in the top 8 of that tournament.
Yeah.
So, and then just looking here at MTG top 8 in the last 2 weeks, in all top 8s from all reported tournaments, Teamer Aggro making up 35%. Now that wasn't one of the decks we had talked about, but red deck wins, Ramanap Red essentially, 13% of the field. Sultai Aggro making up 10% of the field, and God Pharaoh's Gift making up 6% of the field. So all pretty close to top in the charts in terms of percentages played. What about some other decks out there, Greg, that teams can look? Because if we see everyone playing this same loadout, it's going to get really, really annoying, for lack of a better term. But
Well, yeah. Um,
what what kind of spice and variety do you think we can expect to see this weekend?
well, your favorite is, of course, Mono Black Aggro.
Love it.
I kind of have this great idea. You brought it up earlier, but a Mardu team unified. So one player is playing mono white vampires, another plays the mono black aggro, and the other player plays mono red. That way, none of them interact with colors, but they get to play everything they want.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a really interesting way. I think there's going to be a loadout where we're going to have like a Teamer Energy deck for the mid range. That'll probably be
Hmm.
your mid level player. A
Hmm.
black white tokens deck because I can't get around the idea of that Teamer Energy deck going. Oh, I put out 3 dudes. The white deck going. I've got some stuff out, and a hidden stockpile into a fumigate, getting 10 life against Teamer Energy is such a huge swing to destroy all the creatures and gain that life. I just think it's so strong. Um,
Yeah.
I think black white has a lot of play, and then you'll have your mono red or, electrostatic pummeler deck.
Hmm.
That's kind of
Yep.
how I see it. But, there's so many different decks getting played right now. Um, but I still believe in the white. The mono white aggro is a really strong deck. Um,
Yeah. No,
I
I
would
agree.
almost expect to see maybe a control deck and 2 aggro decks is going to be a play because being able to control the best player um, could give you a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, just looking at if you were to play the most popular deck in the format in Teamer Energy, um, that uses pretty much the best cards from each of those colors. Um, just trying to think of what else is out there in terms of what you could pair with that. I mean, mono black aggro and mono white aggro are pretty much the first things I would think of.
Hmm.
Um, but you also have decks like what you would call it. One of my other favorites, which is that treasure map tokens deck with
Yeah.
Tezzeret the Schemer, Marionette Master, and even cards like Spell Swindle. Like, you're not going to find those cards in any other deck out there. And
No.
it's a deck that's capable of actually, winning games.
Well, and don't
Um,
forget it also gets to play with that Scarab God.
It does. It really does. Yeah. I mean, shoot, if you play 4 color energy, you're limiting yourself even more. I would be very surprised if we see, 4 color energy deck. But, I guess it's the only card they'll be running would be Scarab God.
Hmm.
They just had to be careful of how they manage their mana base because, like you said, you can only use 4 of a card. So if they're going to use that Ether Hub or that, um, oh my gosh, the blue black dual lands that we
Sunken
all have,
Hollow.
yeah, then they're gonna have to think twice about what they're including.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
other deck. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Going ahead.
Oh, okay. But no, other prominent decks we've seen like green blue pummeler. Unfortunately, there's a lot of overlap here with things like Rogue Refiner, Long Tusk Cub, Bristling Hydra.
Yeah.
So it's gonna and attune with Aether. I mean, it's gonna be really hard for people to play blue green pummeler along with any other deck. But that does open up the door. If you were to just play blue green pummeler, that frees up red. So you might be able to play, a Ramanop red deck aside this, um, or even a Mardu deck of sorts. I don't know. Do you think, Greg? This is just totally out of left field here. Do you think we might even see some sort of an artifact-based build deck, just because it doesn't require color?
You mean like not like your black blue one, right? But more so just
Right.
a black blue control deck?
Something to the effect of, now, obviously I'm just kind of spitballing here and I haven't done too much research on it, but if you were able to make a deck that functions off of vehicles and artifact creatures, um, I mean, obviously removal is going to be pretty hard in the colorless category, but I don't know. I mean, and that's another idea. Like, if you were to run Mardu vehicles, like, what would your other ones be? I'll just go back to what I was saying. I'm looking forward to some diversity. I'm looking forward to some innovation, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting tournament.
I'll agree to that. I think so too. Um, watch it.
Um, was there were there any other things you wanted to talk about
Uh,
regarding the Magic World Cup?
Not about the Magic World Cup, but there was one thing I wanted to remind everybody about.
What was that?
What's next Tuesday?
What is next Tuesday?
It's the
What is
4th.
it? It's the 4th, December 4th. Absolutely.
What happens on December 4th?
You got me. What happens on
Closed
December 4th?
beta for Arena opens up.
Ooh,
So if you got into
indeed.
that, let us know. We want to watch. I'm hearing people getting emails now that they're a part of it.
I heard that too. That's pretty exciting. In fact, why don't we use that as a segue into our next section of news and announcements? Let's do some as foretold.
As for told, news and announcements, things coming up. So, what's the big thing coming up that we just heard today?
Today on the mothership, we got an announcement that will literally shake the foundation of the commander community.
What?
Um,
No.
for a period in time, you will be allowed to use silver bordered cards in Commander.
No
Yes,
way.
yes, that is correct. Cards from Unglued, Unhinged, Unstable, as well as promo cards that are silver bordered will be allowed in Commander.
Does that mean I can use gifts given?
That means that you can use Timmy, you can use Johnny, and you can use Spike all in a commander deck together.
Man, Sultai never seemed so good.
Right? I mean, you could make a whole deck of, Richard Garfield alongside, all these other prominent characters and all these unsets. I mean, the possibilities are endless, you know? And I know that a lot of casual groups have allowed the use of some of these silver bordered cards just, for fun. But I think this is more of a nod to Magic Online because a lot of people, with the introduction of 1v1 Commander or just casual Commander, have really taken to Magic Online to play Commander against other people. So I think this means that you will be able to play. I don't know. Do they have uncards on MTGO like
I,
Unglued
I,
and
I don't
Unhinged?
think so, but I mean, maybe, just maybe, they'll have drafts for it.
Oh, okay.
But I think there's more fun for Unstable and Unhinged and Unglued to be played in a store, more so. Could you
Right.
imagine playing Rare Begone in a black red deck and just
Yeah.
not running any other rares? Ha!
You know, I've never been so tempted to go and pull out all my old revised band cards, because people will be playing Spike Tournament Grinder, and I'm like, who wants a Dark Pact? Who wants a Demonic Attorney? Who wants an Amulet of Quotes?
Oh, God.
Oh man, never thought I'd see the day when I could actually play those cards.
Wait, does this mean that if you're playing with Spike Tournament Grinder, you could pull out Talarian Academy?
You absolutely could.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
no.
you could pull out pretty much
Sway of the
anything that your
Stars,
heart desires.
Biorhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It will be the wild, wild west for a few weeks here in the world of Commander. So we'll see. We'll see what that brings to the MTG community here.
I think it'll
Um,
be exciting.
yes, definitely, definitely will be exciting. Um, all right. Anything else you want to talk about with the silver bordered release into Commander before we move on?
No, no. I'm pretty excited for it. It seems like a lot of fun. Um, I would like a Grimlock to play in my Dino deck, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really, really cool. I hope that Ashnod's coupon makes a comeback too, and we
Oh
start
gosh, I
seeing
think I've got one still sitting around.
headline: local game stores' revenue on drink purchases increase 100% thanks to Astronaut's coupon.
That would be funny.
See, Wizards is helping out their local game stores after all.
Yep. Yep. No, that's about it for the unstuff.
Okay. Well, we have come to the point where we definitely wanted to address what has been the elephant in the room for the past week in the Magic the Gathering community on social media as well as
Yeah.
in person as well. And that is the subject of bullying, targeted harassment, and overall play environment and experience, as well as interactions on the internet and social media. I would rather just kind of not go into extreme detail on who and what happens or has happened, um, just because, you know, any attention is attention, and we don't really want to draw too much
Yeah.
attention to the people responsible for this. So, but why don't you just kind of summarize vaguely, Greg, what has happened over the
Um,
last week?
I mean, the last week we've had a prominent figure in our community step down and leave Magic. Now this isn't a pro player, but it's, they've left because of constant harassment online and through social media presence for about a year now or more.
Right, and her specific position within the community was the most prominent cosplayer at these Magic the Gathering events like Grand Prix, World
Yes.
Championships, etc.
Yeah, and a lot of judges, a lot of people. I know a lot of people that have fond memories of hanging out with her. She's a great person, and it's really sad that she's left us because of some belligerent fool that can't keep his mouth shut. And
Well, I did what research I could, and I definitely dove down the rabbit hole this last week, watching video after video after video to get kind of my own perspective because I hate judging people on what other people tell me to think. I
hmm
want to kind of experience it for myself. So I went ahead and watched tons of videos, and I'll tell you, while the quote unquote, targeted harassment has been debated by this individual, there is no question in my mind that there's been like slanderous statements, not only towards individuals, but to, portions of the community as well. And while, people are definitely entitled to their opinion, and I am all for free speech. Trust me, we all have opinions and we all need to get them out. I mean, it's our duty as content creators and podcasters to bring this news and information to light, and oftentimes have an opinion on them, because people think differently about almost every subject matter within a community. This one, obviously Magic the Gathering. But um, what I kind of wanted to say is that this is the internet, and this is not something like television. There is no FCC, there is no police on the internet. In fact, there's so much more hate, there's so much more rot, if you will, on the internet than you will ever see on TV or movies or anything else. Um, Now, that being said, there's more accessibility, there's more information, there's way more highs on the internet as well.
yes,
Um, but it's a balance, and so what I would really like to propose to everybody, and I think people have said this in one way, shape, or form, is tolerance and understanding. Now, let me explain, because people, oh, how can you be tolerant and understanding of this, this bigot and blah blah blah? He's saying terrible, terrible things. Yes, yes, he is. And in fact, after watching videos, I followed it up with other videos from other content creators that have the same viewpoint. This is a prevalent opinion among many people. It's a very small percentage of a sub community, but it's still a large number of people. Um, so, you can definitely do things like flag videos and report people, but it's really kind of fueling people's fire, and you can't really convince them one way or another. It's like
Yes.
it's like a virus, you know. It's you can't really just say, okay, we're going to stick this to it. We're going to stick the DCI onto it, and they're going to fix this problem. Great, that's an awesome step. Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of going around in circles here, but tolerance and acceptance, meaning if you are that content producer that wants to get your opinion out there and it's not the most widely shared opinion, then understand that you have influence with your followers and they need to know not to go out and
Yeah.
attack people.
Yeah.
You know, that is absolutely toxic. Now, those who are spreading the message of this guy should be banned, this guy should be, you know, kicked off YouTube, they have a following as well that has been just as vicious, going and, you know, you should never issue death threats to people, and you should never say, you know, malicious things about people directly. You know, it's such a thin line, and it's so hard to, you know, just find a simple solution to this, you know. But all I'm trying to say, and Greg, I don't know if you 100% agree with me, I think you do, but just tolerance and acceptance. Realize that stuff is out there, and just know that you don't have to watch this content. You
You
don't
don't have
have
to
to
agree
consume
with
this
it.
content.
Right.
Find what excites you and run with it. If you like, you know, competitive Magic podcasts, there's stuff out there for you. If you like community oriented podcasts, there's stuff out there for you. If you like YouTube content creators that like to belittle and you know, hurt people, you'll find that. But you know, it's just don't go directly after people and make their life a living hell. That's not what we're about here,
No.
you know.
No. No, I
So
agree with that. Yeah. The moment you step out of your shell and take your opinion to that person, you're breaking the law, in my opinion. Um, it's just not worth it. You're allowed your opinion. You get to make it. Just don't force it on others. I mean,
right.
we don't like it when the church comes out to our house and says, hey, you need to believe in our God and our way of thinking. Same idea. Just don't do it. Accept them for what they want, but you don't have to be them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment you start hating on them, I mean, even the people who are sending this guy death threats, they're just as bad as him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Don't stoop to their level. Be the bigger person.
Yeah. I mean, the MTG community is extremely polarized, and being such an inclusive hobby, you know, a side effect of that is you will have people with very differing opinions, and
Yes.
you just don't want people to act out on that. One other thing that I really wanted to share with everybody, I think I shared this on Twitter, but Brian Braun-Duin, you know, world championship Magic player, you know, all around just, you know, good guy. He wrote an article for TCG Player, and I read it, and it it was really amazing how hard it hit home. I know with me personally, but also how many people out there would benefit from actually reading this and just considering it, you know, because he explains it in a way that is so accurate. And if I may, I just want to read a couple quotes of this to kind of summarize what he was getting across.
No, you can't. Sorry, I'm a bit of a troll. You can't talk about it.
All right, well, that's it. We'll see you next week. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you go right on ahead.
So first off, one of the major points that I think he makes is he says about himself in the past. He says, I got annoyed with how easily people got offended by seemingly innocuous or innocent statements or jokes. Um, that probably encompasses quite a wide array of people who play Magic
Yeah.
nowadays. I mean, you say things and you think, oh, I don't care what they think about it. I know I'm not offended. That's their thing. If they get offended, they get offended, whatever. Um, so, yeah, just seemingly, you know, harmless statements to you, to other people, can really hurt.
Change the
You know,
world.
using words that people are uncomfortable with. You might not think it's harmful, but, and I'm not saying that you, to the right people, your friends, whatever, you can say whatever the heck you want. But when you're in public, when you're at a local game store playing against other players, or when you're saying something loud enough to audibly be heard, like just, things to take into consideration. Later he goes on to say, when someone would tell me that something I did hurt them, my reaction was to think, quote, "You're wrong to feel that way. I didn't intend it like that," rather than to actually think about their perspective and consider why it might be hurtful to them.
Yeah.
Again, sort of echoing the first quote that I said here, but yeah, you can say things and think that it's not, you take your own interpretation as how it is,
Yes.
and it might not be that way to everybody. Um, and moving right along, another one he said here, ultimately, I went from thinking that it was other people's fault if they chose to get offended by my language or actions to thinking that what I say and do is entirely my own personal responsibility. So this is a moment when he had, the revelation of you have to take responsibility for your words and your actions. You can't just go acting and talking all willy-nilly and expecting everything to be fine. Even though you think everything you're saying is fine, it might not be.
Yeah.
And I know that's a pretty, the word, preachy statement, but it's true. It's very true. He also mentioned earlier in the article using certain words to describe how badly he was beaten in a game. And he never thought anything of it because he himself didn't take offense to that word, and other people would choose to be offended by that word. Well, after having this revelation, it's like, well, if I say this, other people might not necessarily take it the same way. I probably would do better for myself and the community if I were to not use these words.
Yeah.
And then just final quote from it, he says, "I don't think it is possible to be both a good person and simultaneously not care about your effect on others." Just be cognizant of what you say and what you do and your audience. Obviously, we have our close group of friends that we can say and do whatever and get away with it. But again, if you're in public, if you're on the internet, if you are anywhere with people who do not know that you are joking, then yeah, you have to be a little bit more responsible about what you say.
And
Otherwise,
yeah.
People could just take it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a chance, go on TCG Player, read Brian Braun-Duin's article. It's called On Kindness, I believe. So yeah, definitely, check that out and do yourself a favor. It was very enlightening to read this. I kind of had one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, this was me, and this is how I feel now. So it's not just him; it's a lot of us. So anyway,
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on the MTG community and stuff like that?
If you guys ever feel like you've been pushed out or you have an issue, we're great people. We try to be, at least. I would like to extend. You can always ask me questions. You can always ask Sean questions. Of course,
Absolutely.
Each and every different social media platform, there's also different people there to support you. If you got a question, you got a problem, feel free.
Ask Greg. Ask Sean. Dear Abby. No, but seriously, yeah, we love hearing from you guys. If it's an email, if it's on Twitter, if it's on Instagram, which we'll talk about in a second.
If you've got an issue with a store,
yeah,
tell somebody.
Talk to your store owner. Talk to your tournament organizer. Talk to a judge. Tell people, because judges are, they're instructed on how to handle situations.
Exactly.
So don't feel like you're alone if you're in a situation and you feel uncomfortable. Definitely let somebody know, because we all want to grow this game. We want a healthy environment. We want people to feel like they can come and play Magic whenever and wherever they want. But just be responsible socially. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Greg, do you have a little couple things you wanted to talk about here in terms of some speculation on what's to come?
Yes. I think we're going to...
Should we head over and take a peer through the looking glass?
I mean, I'd like to have a look.
Is it a Sorcerer's Spyglass?
It might be.
Don't turn off my Tolarian Academy.
Could it be a Sears lantern?
Anyway, Greg, go for it.
So, as you all know, we've got a return to Dominaria next year. Everybody's speculating. Everybody's talking about it. We've got Rivals, of course, coming out here soon. But Dominaria is just such a classic area for old players alike. Me and Sean both miss it. And the fact that
Yup.
we're returning is so exciting. And I was talking to one of my other older Magic friends that I've been playing with for years and years the other day, and an interesting thought occurred to us. And that would be that what if in this new change up for standard, and the new team constructed format, what if they start designing cards for Legacy and Modern that don't really interact with Standard, but they make it and they can change up those formats? And so this was a kind of a speculation. Of course, we're not going to be getting super duper powerful cards in Dominaria. I mean, we already got a reprint of Gaia's Cradle that takes forever, but the fact that we got a card that works like Gaia's Cradle is really cool, and the functionality, it doesn't break the game.
And
Now,
Tolarian Academy.
well, that's not yet coming. But you did get like Search for Esconta, which is in reference to, in a lot of ways, it plays a lot like Sensei's Divining Top. And Top was really strong. And as we see, Search for Esconta does a lot for every format. If you
Yes.
haven't seen it, the Buy a Box promo from Black Friday is like $80 right now.
Ooh.
Right? Talk about a jump. So it's got a lot of play in every format. And, you know, when it first came out, everybody kind of poo-pooed it. But it does a lot. So I expect to see more cards that do things that are Legacy playable. But, you know, they don't really make Standard horrible to play. So I'm expecting a lot of neat cards that are playable among all formats, so we get a change up in everything.
And that would do a wonder for, um, generating some sales for Modern, for Legacy, besides these master sets.
Yeah.
I know things like Fatal Push and Search for Escanta like really have taken off, and while you might see something like a little bit of a price dip on rotation, these staples for these eternal formats are really going to hold their value over time. So I think when we do go back to Dominaria, it would be awesome if we were to see some powerful cards that could be used in Modern and Legacy as well. Um, I know they feel like they made a mistake with Thoughtseize and putting obviously incredibly powerful cards from an already set Modern format in
Yeah.
Standard, and it just completely warps Standard. But yeah, if they could find that balance, that would be pretty awesome.
Well, I think we found some good balance with Fatal Push in Kaladesh. I mean, the
Yeah, I
card's
agree.
really good, but I don't think it has that high playability in Standard like it does in other formats. I mean, sure, it really beats out those aggro decks, don't get me wrong, but otherwise it doesn't do as much because you got your Bristling Hydras, you get so many 5-drops that are really strong that the card just can't deal with it all.
Right, right. It's a good card to counter a Fatal Push with.
Glorybringer?
Claim to Fame.
Ooh, Claim to Fame is definitely that. Are you talking about something else, like a social media presence?
I am, and I this is one of those things that I've been wanting to put into an episode for the longest time, but we're already going to be running up against it here. Um, yeah, no, I posted a picture of the foil Claim to Fame that I pulled. Just its interaction with Glorybound Initiate has my gears turning, and I've talked about this ad nauseum on these casts. And one of these days, I'm actually going to put the deck together, maybe make a YouTube deck tech video, because yeah, we got a YouTube channel now, and we need some content. So
Yeah.
you can go and check out the box opening video, think there's still that gameplay video footage we have. Obviously, the podcasts go up there, but was there anything else you wanted to say before we kind of again move into our where you can find us?
I mean, there's also the extent of Rivals. If you haven't been reading the story, you should read up on it. It looks really good. They started the new geocaching events for Rivals recently. There's an article about it on the mothership.
Oh yeah.
And this time, it's not focused worldwide. It's going to be in different nations. I think they're doing 3 different ones. So there's America, European, and Asia.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. You may want to double check. So that means there are going to be 3 cards released from the geocaching event through this. Yep. I'm kind of excited. Which means we're going to get more flip cards. Possibly in enemy colors. Could you imagine what a black-green flip card would do?
Oh my gosh. That would be amazing.
Yes. So I'm kind of excited for what we're going to get. So yeah.
Okay. And then have you seen this new
No, I did
have
not
you seen
see
this
that
new
guy.
elder dinosaur?
I think he's a black one, and he's like the Death Immortal or something.
It's Tetsamok Primordial Death.
Yeah.
We might have to brew a commander deck around this guy because this ability is awesome.
So as a question, what do you think of the Immortal Sun?
I think the Immortal Sun again is awesome and amazing. You know what? Sure. Do you want to dive into it now, or do you want to save it for next episode?
We're gonna talk a lot about Unstable next episode because I've got my box to open.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna record that.
Might be a posted video.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, yeah, let's go ahead and do it, and then.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, so go ahead and tell us what the Immortal Sun does.
So the Immortal Sun is a 6-drop legendary artifact, and what it says: players, not opponents, can't activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers.
Uh-oh.
So that 4-color planeswalker decks, nope, you're stuck.
Sorry, Gideon.
Okay, so at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Pretty sweet. Nin's staff gets replaced, right?
Yep.
Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Who doesn't like making things cheaper? And then creatures you control get +1/+1. Somebody made a note that the symbol on the Immortal Sun looks a lot like the Azorius symbol.
Ooh.
Somebody believes, I've seen this, is it possible, what if the Perun for Ravnica's Azorius Guild is a planeswalker and made this and put it here, and the giant winged beast not being Nicol Bolas was a Sphinx?
That is very curious.
Yeah.
Because, if Nicol Bolas had this at one point in time, he's never letting go. This brings all of this together in terms of, the lore and the story that we talked about. Obviously, Nicol Bolas is looking for this Immortal Sun, and if it has the power to trap planeswalkers on a plane, then, oh my gosh, if he gets his hands on this, he could take, one by one and get the Gatewatch to start, as well as any other planeswalker in his path, just trap them on the annihilated world of Amonkhet. And okay, so now he wants the planar portal so that he can throw planeswalkers into a plane that is his prison? That's insane.
Maybe he's really trying to rule the universe. He might be a part of the League of Dastardly Doom.
Nicol Bolas is actually a part of the League of Dastardly Doom. Oh, God. And the planar portal or the planar bridge and the Immortal Sun are his contraption.
Oh, man.
Wow. I really like this card. I think obviously this is going to be seeing a lot of EDH play, but
yeah,
it draws to question how much use this would have in Standard, because the reduction of all your spells costing 1 less is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about casting Negate for just one blue mana, or Essence Scatter for one blue mana,
You are such a
or
control player.
Bantu's Last Reckoning for black black. Like, get out of here.
How about making um, all those 2-drop mana dorks Llanowar Elves again?
Yeah,
I mean, sure, this is a 6-drop. You got to ramp into it. But it also
exactly.
makes things like Tezzeret the Schemer a 3-drop Planeswalker.
Yep.
Although we aren't
Yep.
going to keep Tezzeret the Schemer when we will have it out.
Right. He'll be legal for another set or so.
Yep.
But yeah, no, the 6-drop definitely is a hindrance on it from being in standard or any other of those competitive 60 card formats.
I don't
But
know. It makes Approach of the Second Sun pretty bearable.
yeah,
And
yeah, no, that's
that
true. You could
the
cast your approach for the second sun for one less.
Esper Approach deck, run a Scaragod. Scaragod becomes it's what, a 4-drop already? It
Four
becomes a
drop.
3-drop.
Yep, it'll keep coming back to your hand. And you can cast it for cheaper, which will let you probably activate that ability
It
more
makes your
frequently.
internalized creatures 5/5s.
So yeah, I see this going in maybe black blue control, blue white control,
Yes.
some form of control deck that doesn't use planeswalkers, obviously, because that would be a bit of a nombo if you were to play all your planeswalkers and then drop an Immortal Sun.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that because it is players, it's not opponents. So keep that into consideration.
Yep.
So after that, let's go back and talk about this black elder dinosaur here, Tetsamok, old boy. This is a 6/6 elder dinosaur, legendary elder dinosaur for 4 black black, and it has Death Touch. And so you can tap 1 black, reveal Tetsamok, Primordial Death, from your hand, put a prey counter on target creature. Only activate this ability during your turn. When Tetsamok, Primordial Death, enters the battlefield, destroy all creatures with a prey counter on it. So,
Ugh.
this can get nasty. I mean, cards like Plague Wind in Garrick's Wake that are one-sided board wipes that save, your own stuff. If you invest that much mana into, because you can activate this as many times as you want, as long as it's during your turn. And black definitely has ways of exploding its mana production.
Yeah, it does.
This could get pretty insane. I also think if you were to use something like Cloudstone Curio, if we get more black dinosaurs, bouncing it back to your hand somehow so that you can reuse it and reactivate it, that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah. I don't
Now,
know.
question for you, Greg. If
Yes.
you were to have a Rings of Bright Earth and you were to use his ability, actually, no, that doesn't make any sense because you would just use it multiple times. Never mind. I'm like, can you copy his ability? Well, rings cost 2, so you can just tap 2 and then target 2 more things. So yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because of his ability is so cheap. Yes, you could rings it if you really wanted to, but just paying the black is easy enough too.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an overload of colorless mana for whatever reason, maybe, but yeah, not like that.
Yeah.
So
But no, he's really cool. The only problem is that he doesn't work that great as your commander because you can't reveal from the command zone.
oh my gosh, you are correct.
Now, if you're running Command Beacon and Ramunap Excavator and or Crucible Worlds, you can pop them into your hand and then do that. I mean,
Well, Crucible
not
Worlds is
Crucible-
lands.
Right, but you use Crucible Worlds with Command Beacon to return it. So Command Beacon, you sacrifice Command Beacon, you put your commander into your hand,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and then you
Gotcha.
need to be able
Okay.
to replay your Command Beacon to continue doing that, right?
Right. Right. There's yeah. Oh man. Yeah. There's gonna be
Boom.
ways to
Boom.
get around this.
There, that's how you build that deck. Got to have those
There you
cards.
go. Maybe we'll have to build it and see what happens.
You get to run the bounce erratic portal too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I went there.
let's we'll leave Tetsamok for now. Probably visit him in a later episode.
Probably.
Um,
I think it's kind of weird that we got a black elder dragon or elder dinosaur when we don't have any other colors. Like
I
it's
know. I mean, you
Undying
can't run
colors.
this in Gishath.
I know.
What are we gonna see another multicolored legendary
I
dinosaur?
mean, a Jund-colored one, maybe?
Oh my gosh.
Boom.
How crazy would it be if they just went shards on us with dinosaurs? No, there would be a blue one.
I
But
mean, there could be a blue dinosaur. A
I guess.
plesiosaurus or something.
I mean, this set is supposed to be dinosaurs, pirates, vampires, and merfolk, but once you start crossing that border, the dinos are going to take over. I mean, we heard at the end of the last story there were a bunch of primal roars coming out, so who knows?
Definitely. Who knows?
So, all right, man. Well, we're getting up there, so.
So where can we find ourselves?
Oh, well, you can find me on Twitter at MTG_Sean.
You can find me on Twitter at NoobSlasher2003.
And you can find the show at The Win Condition. You can also find us on Instagram at The Win Condition MTG.
Wait, what?
We recently have had a resurgence with posting and following and stuff like that. So we look forward to seeing people comment and contribute. We may do one of our future giveaways might involve Instagram. We don't know, but not new, but kind of improved. So check us out there.
Mm-hmm.
We have our YouTube page again with that link in the show notes. And you can email us at thewinconditionpodcast@gmail.com. So,
Yeah.
Greg,
What?
thank you again.
Oh, of course, no problem. It's always a pleasure.
And everybody out there, be kind to each other. Have a great week. And we're in December, man. We're getting into the holidays here.
God,
So,
it is the first. Man, enjoy
yep.
your Christmas, everybody.
2018 is almost here. Go out and watch Magic World Cup. And all that being said, we will talk to y'all next week.
Alrighty, guys. Bye.